You will hear a phone conversation between two people, Kathy and John. John is hoping to volunteer at a retirement home. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10.
Hello, Hillary Lodge Retirement Home. Kathy speaking.
Hello, my name's John Shepherd. Could I ask if you're the manager of the home?
That's right.
Oh, good. Hello, Kathy. A friend of mine is a volunteer at Hillary Lodge, and I'd like to help out too, if you need more people. I work part-time, so I have quite a lot of free time.
We're always glad of more help, John. Shall I tell you about some of the activities that volunteers get involved in?
Please.
Well, on Monday evenings, we organise computer training. We've got 6 laptops and 5 or 6 residents come to the sessions regularly. They're all now fine at writing and sending emails, but our trainer has just moved away, and we need 2 or 3 volunteers who can help the residents create documents. Just simple things, really.
I'd certainly be interested in doing that.
Great! Then on Tuesday afternoons, we have an informal singing class, which most of the residents attend. We've got a keyboard and someone who plays, but if you'd like to join in the singing, you'd be very welcome.
I work on Tuesdays at the moment, though that might change. I'll have to give it a miss for now, I'm afraid.
OK. Then on Thursday mornings, we generally have a session in our garden. Several of our residents enjoy learning about flowers, where they grow best, how to look after them and so on. Is that something you're keen on?
I'm no expert, but I enjoy gardening, so yes, I'd like to get involved. Do you have your own tools at the home?
We've got a few, but not very many.
I could bring some in with me when I come.
Thank you very much. One very important thing for volunteers is that we hold a monthly meeting where they all get together with the staff. It's a chance to make sure we're working well together and that everyone knows how the residents are and what's going on in the home.
Uh-huh.
Now, obviously, we'd need to get to know you before you become one of our volunteers.
Of course.
Could you come in for an informal interview later this week, maybe?
I'm busy the next couple of days, but would Saturday be possible?
Certainly. Just drop in any time during the day. I won't be working then, so you'll see my assistant, Mairead.
Sorry, how do you spell that?
It's M-A-I-R-E-A-D. Mairead.
OK, got that. It's not a name I'm familiar with.
Oh, it's an Irish name. She comes from Dublin.
Right. And the road that Hillary Lodge is in is called Bridge Road, isn't it?
That's right. Number 73.
Fine.
Oh, one other thing you might be interested in. We're holding a couple of open house days and still need a few volunteers if you're available.
What are the dates?
There's one on April the 9th and another on the 14th of May. They're both Saturdays and all-day events.
I can certainly manage May the 14th. I've got another commitment on April the 9th, though.
That would be a great help. We're having several guest entertainers, singers, a brass band and so on, and we're expecting a lot of visitors. So one possibility is to help look after the entertainers. Or you could spend an hour or so organising people as they arrive, and then just be part of the team, making sure everything's going smoothly.
Well, shall I show people where they can park?
Lovely. Thank you. One reason for holding the open house days is to get publicity for Hillary Lodge locally. So you may find you have someone from a newspaper wanting to interview you. They'll want to find out from 2 or 3 people why they volunteer to help at the home. We're trying to get a TV station to come too, but they don't seem very interested.
I don't mind being interviewed.
Good. Well, if you come in for a chat, as we arranged, we'll take it from there. Thank you very much for calling.
My pleasure. Goodbye.
Bye.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now, turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear a conversation about health centres. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 20.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come in, please. How can I help you?
I want to know some information about your health centre.
Yes, sit down, please. There are 2 health centres. One is East Centre and the other is West Centre.
Where are they located?
East Centre is about 10 minutes to City Hall, very close, and West Centre is out of town.
How about the appointment system of the 2 health centres?
Well, we have a proper appointment system, but because East Centre has many patients, I have to say its appointment system is not bad.
How about the West Centre?
It is more efficient than the East Centre, just 48 hours drive in advance.
Fine. How about their facilities?
What do you mean?
How about the difference of medical facilities between the 2 centres?
The East Centre has modern facilities, especially for some patients who need an operation.
Yes. How about the facilities at the West Centre?
It also has a standard facilities, but it's not better than the East Centre.
Yes. I'd like to know some information about the doctors in both the health centres.
There are about 12 doctors at East Centre.
I heard somebody say there is a really nice doctor who is good with children.
Yes, he is Dr. Sam.
I'm worried about my son's leg.
How old is your son?
7 years old.
Oh, I think the West Centre is a good choice for you.
What do you mean?
There are 8 doctors at the West Centre. Dr. Jerry is one of the most famous doctors in both health centres.
Yes, it is said that Dr. Jerry is very good with leg trouble.
Yes, I will think about it. If you want a doctor to visit you at home, you can reserve a home visit.
Really?
Yes, but we have a fixed home visit time.
Could you tell me the time arrangements?
Consulting hour for doctors at the East Centre is from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
And the West Centre?
The time is from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
How about emergencies?
If it is an emergency, you can phone at any time, night or day. It might not be your doctor that comes through, though.
Yes. How about the charge?
You mean in an emergency?
Yes.
If you are a member, we will charge you £8 at the East Centre.
Is it the same fee with the West Centre?
No, because of the distance, the charge will be £9.50.
Sure. How about medication?
When the doctor sees you, you will get a prescription. You can take the medication you need at our health centre or go to a drugstore.
Sure.
If it's for a child under the age of 10, you don't have to pay for medication.
Really? That sounds good.
The same thing applies if you are a patient who is retired or pregnant.
Right. May I apply for your health centre's membership now?
Of course. You should fill in the form first.
Fine.
This is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to section 3. You will hear a tutor and a student discussing a project the student is working on. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 27.
Right, Stuart. Well, I've read your draft report on your work placement at the Central Museum Association. Sounds as if you had an interesting time. So you ended up making a film for them?
Yeah, it was a film to train the employees in different museums in the techniques they should use for labelling ancient objects without damaging them. Some of them are really fragile.
OK. So, in your report, you go through the main stages in making the film. Let's discuss that in a little more detail. You had to find a location, somewhere to shoot the film.
That took quite a few days because I had to look at different museums all over the country, but I'd allowed time for it. And even though it was the middle of winter, there wasn't any snow, so I didn't have any transport problems.
Right. Did you have to decide what equipment you'd need for the filming?
Yes, I think they were quite surprised at how well I managed that. It was just the luck of the draw, actually. I'd done that project with you last year.
Oh, on recording technology? So you knew a bit about it from that, right?
Yeah. What I found really hard was actually writing the script. I had a deadline for that, but the association had to extend it. I couldn't have done it otherwise.
Would it have helped if you'd had some training there?
I think you're right. I probably needed that, yeah.
Right. Now, from your draft report, it sounds as if you had one or two problems deciding who was going to actually appear in the video.
The casting, yeah. I'd expected that the people who worked for the association would be really keen on taking part.
But they weren't?
The thing was, they were all so busy, and it did mean some of them had to travel. But Janice King, who I was reporting to for the project, she was great. She arranged for people to have time off and for their work to be covered, so that was a big help for me.
Right. And it sounds like the filming itself went well. I gather you found a company who provided an online introduction to the techniques.
Yeah, it was really informative and very user-friendly. I learned a lot from it.
And then the editing?
For that, the association put me in touch with someone who works for one of the big movie companies, and I went down to the studio and sat with him in front of his computer for a day, learning how to cut and paste and deal with the soundtrack and so on.
So was that all?
No, I didn't include this in my draft report, but I had to design the cover for the DVD as well, the lettering and everything.
Have you done any of that sort of design work before?
No, but I did a rough draft and then talked it through with a couple of my mates, and they gave me some more ideas. And when I'd finished it, I showed it to the people who worked at the association, and they really liked it.
Excellent.
Now listen and answer questions 28 to 30.
Now, as well as your own draft report, I've also received some written evaluation from the association on the work you did during your placement and how it was of benefit to them. I noticed that you haven't included anything on that in your report yet.
How my project benefited the association, you mean? So, do I have to include that?
Yes.
Well, let's think. I suppose if I hadn't made the film for them, they'd have had to get an outside company to do it. But because I was actually working for the association, I'd got much more of a feeling for what their aims are. Things like their responsibility for the conservation of the exhibits. I don't think an outside company would have had that understanding. They'd have been more detached.
Right. And the association also said that because of your background, you had a good idea of where to go to get the best deal for the equipment you needed. They said the saving in expense made it worthwhile, even though sourcing it took quite a bit of time.
Yes, that's true.
The association also said making the film had a very positive effect in getting staff to work together more closely.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's good. And certainly people weren't afraid to tell me what they thought about it as I was making it, so I was able to get lots of feedback at every stage. That was useful for me, but it also meant the final product worked better for them.
Can you think of any other benefits?
Well, I don't think they'd really thought out what they'd do with the film once it was made. I made quite a few suggestions for the distribution, other people we could send it to, as well as museum staff.
Yes, they mentioned that. OK, good. Well, it sounds like they certainly...
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now, turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a lecture about marine life. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
How many fish are in the sea? It's a hot topic for many scientists. Today we have invited a famous scientist who spent 10 years studying marine life to give us an introduction of the latest survey called The Census of Marine Life. Let's welcome Alok Jha.
Thanks, Ella. The Census of Marine Life has been the biggest and most comprehensive attempt ever to answer that question. How many fish are in the world's oceans? The Census of Marine Life, which hopes to indicate a baseline of marine life, estimates that there are more than 230,000 species in the sea. The study covers from coast to the open ocean, from the shallows to the deeps, from little things like microbes to large things such as fish and whales. A team of over 360 scientists from all over the world have spent the past 10 years surveying 25 regions, from the Antarctic through to the temperate and tropical seas to the Arctic, to count the different types of plants and animals. The findings indicate that crustaceans such as lobsters, crabs, krill, and barnacles account for a fifth of the number of species in the world's oceans, and half of the world's marine species is mollusk, squid and octopus, and fish, including sharks. The charismatic species usually used in propagating environmental protection, for example whales, sea lions, turtles, and seabirds, account for less than 2% of the species in the world's oceans. The study has also focused on major fields of concern for conservationists. In every region, they got the same experience of a major collapse of what were usually very abundant fish stocks or crabs or crustaceans that are now only 5 to 10% of what they used to be. The main reasons include overfishing, degraded habitats, and pollution. But more problems are presented. Rising water temperatures and acidification brought by climate change and the growth in areas of the ocean that are low in oxygen and therefore unable to support marine life. The Census of Marine Life shows that enclosed seas, such as the Mediterranean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, China's shells, the Baltic, and the Caribbean, have the most threatened biodiversity. The pollutions in enclosed seas are mainly from chemicals or garbage that people throw into it. Dense coastal populations of humans also tend to be packed along enclosed seas, meaning rising contaminations and extraction of more biodiversity from the water. The Mediterranean Sea, which contains around 17,000 identified species, has been a region with high threat. Scientists in our team studying the Mediterranean identified problems related to increased litter from shipping and munitions across the sea, as well as bombs discharged during the Kosovo War. The Mediterranean also has to face problems with invasive species, displacing the creatures that already live there. The Census of Marine Life shows that the Mediterranean Sea has the most alien species, more than 600, among all the 25 regions that have been surveyed. It looks like The region with coral reefs has always had a very high rate of speciation. It also has a very diverse range of habitats, from the deepest regions of the ocean to large regions of shallow seas which can afford coral reefs. The most diverse regions identified by the Census of Marine Life are around Australian and Japanese waters, which contain more than 30,000 species each, and are among the most biologically diverse in the world. Next in line are the oceans of China, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. Besides algae and the seabirds and mammals that travel around the sea, viperfish has been regarded as the most cosmopolitan marine creature by the Census of Marine Life. Its presence was recorded in around a quarter of the world's seas. And for every marine species of all kinds known to science, scientists of the Census of Marine Life estimate that at least 4 have yet to be discovered. For example, about 70% of species of fish have been discovered, but for most other groups, likely less than 1/3 are known. Our research team has found the number of marine fish species was about 16,764 and was growing at around 100 a year. So scientists estimate that there are almost 22,000 fish species in the world's oceans. The most fruitful potential areas for discovery include the tropics, deep seas, and southern hemisphere. Although most ocean organisms still remain nameless, and their numbers unknown at the end of the Census of Marine Life, we still gained an important and exciting start.
Definitely. That's a great achievement.
Thank you very much.
OK, thanks to Alok for giving the amazing information about marine life. Next week we will...
This is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.